what really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2, and we're talking about the revelations coming on out about Seth Rich's murder, that he was, in fact, WikiLeaks' source for the DNC emails. The Russians had nothing to do with it, and still they're out there on the corporate media. Oh, well, the Russians hacked the DNC. The Russians did this. The Russians did that. And it's almost like their whole idea is we're just going to throw so many lies at the American people. Sooner or later, they'll just get tired of being skeptical, and they'll start believing again. It's not going to work, but at this point, you would think the corporate media would have learned some lessons over the disasters they had happening last year and this year. But their corporate masters don't care. Corporate masters are going to keep on paying them to lie until all of their audience is gone. Then they'll just shut down and fire all these people. Julian Assange is out there basically saying that the CIA is the world's most dangerously incompetent spy agency. And apparently this was in response to the CIA branding him a friend of terrorists. And apparently CIA spokesperson Heather Fritz Horniak told Russia Today in an email, dictators and terrorists have no better friend in the world than Julian Assange, as theirs is the only privacy he protects. So it's a war of words. And basically, this is in response to the revelation through WikiLeaks that the CIA has a special hacker unit set up that specializes in hacking into other people's computers and planting digital fingerprints to lay a false trail to somebody else. Now, back when they were still trying to claim that the Russians had hacked the DNC servers, they claimed it was because they knew it because of the digital fingerprints. And WikiLeaks undermined that. Now we know that the hacking never even occurred to begin with. It was a leak by Seth Rich. The CIA is angry that their bad behavior is now on full display for the world to see. That they're not the good guys. Now, Judicial Watch has filed a lawsuit under the Freedom of Information Act against the Department of Justice for all the FBI records regarding that Trump dossier, where Donald Trump and 2 prostitutes spoiled a mattress in the Moscow hotel, which is already pretty much discredited. But Judicial Watch wants to find out just where this came from. Now, we all know that this former MI6 agent, Christopher Steele, came up with it, and he was paid to come up with it through his private firm, Orbis Business Intelligence. And Judicial Watch wants to know from whom he was getting paid. And the Department of Justice refused the records, and they don't have legal grounds to do so. The privacy provisions of the Freedom of Information Act do not apply here, and so now Judicial Watch is having to sue. And speaking of disappearing things, apparently the FBI is now shuffling its feet and saying that the laptop that held copies of Clinton's emails has gone missing. And apparently there was a technical worker who had a laptop on which backup copies of Hillary Clinton's emails were being kept. Now, the emails were deleted, but the hard drive was not wiped, meaning emails could be recovered from this. And for some strange reason, the FBI said, can you mail us the laptop? And that was the last anybody ever saw of it. It went into the U.S. Post Office, and that's it. The laptop is gone. Golly gee shuckies. It was lost in the mail. And if you believe that one, I have some of Saddam's nuclear weapons to sell you. Now, the other day we were talking about this coming White House staff shakeup. And there was speculation that Fox News host Kimberly Guilfoyle might replace Sean Spicer as the White House press secretary. Fox News has come on out reminding everybody that Kimberly is under a long-term contract with Fox News, and they have no intentions of letting her go. So she will be staying at Fox, and again, we don't have confirmation that Sean Spicer is going to be fired, but we do know that the deputy press secretary has been conducting most of the news briefings for the last week. But again, I agree, there needs to be a major staff shakeup at that White House. Trump needs to get people in that White House who are going to be loyal to him, who are going to do what they're told, keep their mouths shut, and be part of a coherent, functioning administration. Okay, getting on over to the war zones, you probably have noticed there's all of a sudden a new propaganda campaign ramping up against Syria. Oh, Syria's evil, Syria's bad. And we're going to do a quick shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. As you know, they came out just the other day with this satellite photo of this known prison inside Syria, and the snow on one section of the roof was melted. And from that, they came on out, oh, Assad is murdering thousands of people, and he's destroying the bodies to hide the evidence of his crime. And there are actually even some voices in the corporate media saying, oh, come on now. And as I pointed out on my website and on the show, that heat under that one section of the roof could be the prison kitchen. Could be the laundry with all the dryers running. We don't know. And again, on the principle of look for what should be there and isn't, if you go back and you look at pictures of crematoria, and I put up a whole bunch of them on my webpage, one feature they all share is a very tall smokestack, because they don't want that smell coming down to the ground. They want the wind to disperse it before it comes close to the ground. So what's missing in this photo of the roof with the melted snow? There's no smokestack. It's just more lies and more propaganda trying to sell you a war in Syria. And I got to tell you, the American people are sick and tired of war. We've been living with war constantly for 16 years. And we're tired of it. Tired of paying for it. We're tired of seeing our children come back in cheap metal boxes or in wheelchairs, or their brains fried from all the medications they're given, PTSD. I mean, this is a failed war policy. The fact that the U.S. government is still in all these countries, still talking about escalation, can't make any progress. They're literally bogged down in all these quagmires. This is turning into a war of attrition. And the United States is running out of material, they've run out of money, they're running out of manpower. It's time to pull back from this before the nation collapses. Looking back at the collapse of the former Soviet Union, a major contributing factor was the Soviet Union's military budget, where they felt they had to constantly match the U.S. in weapons. And they bankrupted their own country by focusing all of their money on the military. And that's what our government is doing to our country right now. Now, as you know, the other day, apparently Germany is yanking all their forces out of Turkey, in particular the Incirlik Air Base, over this argument, because Ankara will not allow German members of German military police, rather, to visit the soldiers at Incirlik. And so now they're going to pull them all out, and Germany is looking for another airfield in the area that they can use to forward deploy their forces. So, again, a lot of faction fighting going on. Now, Erdogan is in Washington, and there's already been a bit of a stink because apparently there were Kurdish protesters outside the White House, and Erdogan's bodyguards basically attacked them. Bloody beatdown. 4 people seriously injured, 2 have been arrested, and there's a video of it where these Erdogan bodyguards just charge across the street and just start pounding on the protesters, knock them down, kick them in the face. Just, that's not going to look good on the world press. And maybe Erdogan just doesn't really care of it. Over in Yemen, along with the bombing and strafing by Saudi Arabia, there's been a major outbreak of cholera. And it's just hitting the children. The hospitals are overflowing. And it's a humanitarian disaster. By any reasonable description of that phrase, it is a humanitarian disaster. Let's see. Yeah, just talking about they can't find care. The hospitals are full. The doctor's offices are full. I'm wondering if this is really just the collapse of sanitation or if somebody has launched a biowarfare attack on the people of Yemen. Now, the Pentagon has just signed a new defense deal with the United Arab Emirates over a U.S. troop presence, which will allow the United States to send more troops and equipment to the region. Everybody's lining up for the coming war. And it looks like it's unstoppable. Over in Israel, another Gaza fisherman has been killed by Israeli forces. Muhammad Majid Baker, 28-year-old, was fishing with his brother when he was shot in the chest. And apparently this was part of an operation where Israeli forces detained 6 Palestinian fishermen and confiscated 2 boats. And they were fishing in Gaza's fishing areas. But Israel just likes... Okay. Sorry for the interruption. I'm responding to the control room here. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines if you want to call on in. Meanwhile, the International Committee of the Red Cross is saying that Gaza is on the brink of a systemic collapse from the electricity crisis, and this is part of Israel's starvation program. They keep cutting back on the supplies of fuel going in. Most people in Gaza do not have electricity 24 hours a day. In fact, they only have electricity a few hours a day, and they have to sort of plan on doing what they're doing during that time, cooking their meals. And, of course, without constant electricity, there's no refrigeration. And so even the limited amount of food that's being allowed into Gaza, a lot of that is being lost to spoilage. Now, turning to Korea, things are very tense there, and I think the attitude from the United States is fully on display because over at the United Nations yesterday, Nikki Haley was out there with one of these draconian statements: you are either supporting North Korea or you support us. You're either with us or you're our enemy. Like George Bush said, you're with us or you're with the terrorists. This call to choose sides. And a lot of the members of the United Nations don't want to get caught up in this. They don't want to choose sides. They see this as just another U.S. adventure, trying to take over yet another country, and they just don't want to get involved. Meanwhile, another worrying indication. The USS Carl Vinson and its strike group, which was over near the North Korean peninsula, for exercises, supposedly, will now stay there. It will remain deployed in the region for an indefinite period of time. So they're rattling the sabers even more. This is a little interesting. The U.S. strike group headed by the aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan is beginning a patrol in the Indo-Asia Pacific. They're not exactly saying exactly where it is. But apparently it's being escorted by the guided missile cruiser Shiloh, guided missile destroyers Barry, John S., as well as McCain, McCampbell, and Mustin, and aircraft from the carrier Air Wing 5. Here's the reason I think there is potentially something going on here. The USS Ronald Reagan is still contaminated from taking part in the Fukushima cleanup, or evacuation, if you will. And a lot of U.S. Navy sailors got very sick, and while they have tried to decontaminate the ship, they have not really been successful. And one of the reasons is because neutron radiation can actually turn non-radioactive materials into radioactive isotopes. And that means the actual metal of the ship itself is potentially radioactive, and there's no way to reverse that. So they're sending over an aircraft carrier that really, over time, makes its own crew ill. And we have to ask, is this going to be the sacrificial lamb? Are they going to sink the Ronald Reagan in somebody else's waters, get rid of the nuclear waste problem, and then blame North Korea for it? I mean, wouldn't be the first time. Remember the Maine, the USS Maine. Oh, it was destroyed by a Spanish torpedo. No, it was destroyed by an onboard fire. Or the Arizona and the sneak attack that everybody knew was going to happen. That's how these things get going. Now, the good news is South Korea wants to reopen communications with the North. The new South Korean President Moon Jae-in is saying he wants to improve relations with North Korea. And so they're saying their immediate priority is to reopen the lines of communication, just get the phones working again. Now, the biggest obstacle to doing that is, of course, the United States. And President Moon is dispatching a new ambassador to Washington, D.C. And Trump is still towing the war hawk line that diplomacy has failed, and he'll only accept discussions with North Korea under very limited circumstances, which basically amounts to you get rid of your nukes and your missiles first, and then maybe we'll do something nice for you. Now, let's talk about the economy. Bad day on the Dow. Stock sell-off. The corporate media is saying it's all because of all this stuff about Donald Trump, the uncertainty of the White House. I don't think so. I think reality is starting to catch up with a lot of the markets. The Dow closed down 372. That's going to make people nervous, and we might actually see a sell-off going around the globe later this evening. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. Needless to say, gold went up. At the same time, the stock market went down. But the economic news is really not good. And I can imagine probably a lot of people starting to think it's time to seek a safe haven for their wealth, which would certainly explain the spike in gold. People are dumping their stocks and they're starting to buy gold. Very good thing to do here. So, a little concerning, especially with the stock market headed down. The top 25 United States banks have a total of $222 trillion in derivatives exposure. Now that is a lot. That is multiple times the gross domestic product. Now, as long as stock prices continue to rise and the U.S. economy stays stable, these extremely risky financial weapons of mass destruction will lie dormant. But if there is a major stock market correction, the derivatives will come due. And nobody has the money to fix that mess. U.S. household debt has now surpassed the 2008 high. It's hit a record $12.7 trillion. And it shouldn't be much of a surprise because for the last 100 years, our entire economic system has been based on borrowing money at interest from a privately owned central bank. And that bank, by design, creates more debt than money with which to pay the debt, which is why the debt continues to grow, both for American citizens, for the government, for the nation as a whole. There is no way to reverse it, short of nationalizing the bank and just writing it off. All right, we're coming up here on a commercial break. We got some callers waiting on the line. We're going to take their phone calls when we come back from these words from our sponsor. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And before I take the phone calls, a little bit of breaking news here. Somebody just posted at whatreallyhappened.com reminding us all that on May 3rd, 2 months after this Comey memo implying Donald Trump obstructed justice was supposed to have been written, 2 months after that, Comey testified under oath before the Congressional Committee, quote, a situation where we were told to stop something for a political reason, that would be a very big deal. It's not happened in my experience. There's the smoking gun. This whole obstruction of justice thing is just another media fraud. So somebody very alert caught that. All right, let's take some phone calls. John in Chicago, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I can't help going back to believing that we are going to end up with a President Pence, because even Tucker Carlson last night when he was talking to Brett Hume said he wants Trump to stop tweeting. Now, I know the Fox News is going centrist now. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, if we look at Trump, what we're getting is he's like a Kardashian reality TV figure. And President Pence, every time you look at him, like when he went to North Korea and he went to South Korea and he went to the DMZ, it's all these stoic pictures of him looking like Clutch Cargo. And now that we have all these fisticuffs breaking out all over our country at either the New Orleans Monument or Berkeley or Auburn, and now you have Erdogan's goons going out and beating down 60-year-old people right there on 23rd Street in Washington, D.C., the people don't want this in the country. We used to see this on TV in Europe at the G20, you know, galas and things like that, and we'd see cops with riot gear and billy clubs. Nobody wants this on this soil. And if Trump is, quote-unquote, made to be the figure who's causing all this divide and getting the people out to the streets, they're going to say, give us President Pence, because he's a very quiet, stoic-looking guy. And, I'm just afraid that he was selected for this office, because now you're, like, defending Seth Rich. Well, Seth Rich, his program is he just wanted that communist Bernie Sanders to get the nomination. Well,
no, wait a minute. We don't know what Seth Rich's motivation was. Certainly the emails that he released to WikiLeaks indicated criminal actions being committed. And I think if Seth Rich had been a Bernie Sanders fan, he would have been working for Bernie Sanders' campaign. And instead he was working with the DNC and Hillary's campaign. And I think he's just one of those people who saw something in front of his eyes that he felt needed to be exposed to the public. And that was what he was trying to do. And from the way he did it through WikiLeaks, it's obvious he knew he was risking his life to do it. So I don't think we should make assumptions as to what Seth Rich's motives were, because we have no way of knowing.
Okay, well, I just want to say that the American people, I think we had enough with the Clintons, and I'm just sorry that if you put Hillary Clinton up there, the whole country as a whole just hates that woman, and that's probably why a guy like Trump got. I mean, the blackmail can work in reverse. The blackmail could be, hey, Donald Trump, you are going to run for the nomination, and you are going to take this job as president so we can get all this civil unrest and get the people unhinged in this country so we can advance the police state over the people and shut us up. I'm sorry. I just think it's getting to the point where the people are not going to be allowed to dissent anymore.
Well, they're definitely working that way here. But again, I try to apply Occam's razor to these situations and look for the simplest explanation for what's going on. I think what happened was that because everybody hated Hillary Clinton, they were aware of the past crimes and corruptions, that's why Donald Trump got on in. Because the American people were sick of the Bushes and the Clintons and the establishment and the oligarchs, and Trump's election victory was a major, major upset. Just like Brexit was an upset, and now the globalists are trying to reassert their control by any means necessary. They could trigger a civil war. If they take Trump out, they could trigger a civil war, because already the liberal Democrats on these college campuses with their black hoods and everything, they're out there acting like brown shirts.
Well, we're going to quickly. What I want to ask, though, is there any evidence that Trump is going against the deep state? Because if the deep state is a guy like Mad Dog Mattis and the Pentagon's actually running the show, and they're putting troops on Russia's border, what is Trump doing to back that off?
It's looking to me like Trump is trying to reassert his authority, and that may be why there's a big push to get rid of him, along with the fact that with Comey gone, a lot of people are open to arrest and investigation. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to have to let you go. We'll be back with another phone call after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're going to go back to the phones here. Mo in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. Thanks for taking my call, and thanks to you and Claire. And I can't imagine just doing this every day, putting out the truth and taking the blows. And that's a real patriot. So that's my compliment to you.
Well, thank you.
And I think everybody watches your program already knows that.
Now, so someday they will erect a statue to me, and pigeons of the world shall rejoice.
Michael, there's an afterlife, and you will be rewarded for what you did in this life. That's what I believe, and I'm non-religious, so whatever. I think the good deeds, do get rewarded, But my question is this, and I meant that previous comment, but my question is this. A long time ago, I'm a long-time follower of Ron Paul, campaigned for him. I remember, I'm just guessing, like 12, 15 years ago, when the Internet was new, he came out and he said, be careful. When they start trying to control the Internet, you'll know what's going to hit the fan.
Yes.
And you're the perfect guy to ask this to, because I think this last We Cry, whatever that thing was, I think they're doing a beta test. And I think they're getting ready to, when you look at Bitcoin and how much the Internet has changed everybody's lives, I think they're going to disrupt the Internet and blame it on the Russians. Now, that's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. But I was wondering if you kind of thought this, that's a possibility.
Well, certainly when, a while back I did write this article on the virtual 911 saying that the U.S. government might crash the net and blame a designated enemy for it, and I was wondering if maybe the WannaCry ransomware was the beginning of that, especially because of how quick they were to blame it on North Korea.
Wow. I didn't read that article. Great minds think alike, I guess. But I just think that, I don't know. They're going to do something. I got that feeling, because we're also dependent on the Internet.
That's the real risk here. I mean, it's critical that we're dependent on it. It's not like something they can take down, like baseball or something else. We're all dependent on it, and they could cause a huge amount of damage to the economy and the nation with these games. What their goal would be to find out some way where they could shut down individual website operators and turn the Internet into just another content delivery platform, sort of a TV set with more knobs and buttons on it. But again, that raises First Amendment issues. I remember back during Senator Exxon's attempt to impose government control on the net because of pornography, they were talking about actually licensing computer software compilers, which is impractical because anybody who really knows software can write a compiler if they want to. And there's even been talk that they may try and impose licensing on websites. And obviously that would be a very powerful tool to drive the independent media off the net by simply imposing gigantic fees on it.
Well, there's always a counter thing, and like the yin and the yang. There's the other side of it. I don't know. I think technology-wise, have you heard of the Steemit? The new website Steemit?
No, I have not. Please enlighten us.
Wow. It's I don't know that much about it, but it's a website, kind of something like a YouTube, where you get paid in either dollars or virtual dollars for how much you comment, and I don't know. I don't know that much about it, but it's everybody's looking for an alternative to YouTube, and trying to find another avenue where they're not controlled by Google and Facebook.
Well, there are a lot of them out there, and I'm not staying on top of them as much as I should. I mean, I've got my favorites. I've already gone to Scene Life, Gab, VK, Yandex, and DuckDuckGo as alternative search engines. But the numbers for these corporate social media platform search engines are going down, and these new startups that are promising censorship-free communication, they're really taking off.
Yeah, well, I'll let you go here because I'm taking too much time. But I think what Steemit's doing is because with YouTube and they're cutting everybody's revenues off by their algorithms, and they're trying to filter out free speech. it's starting to go to it with this blockchain technology and the bitcoins and whatever. I think it's kind of like a race, and I don't know. I don't think it can stop, free speech.
Well, ultimately, you are correct, and I've commented before that what we're seeing today it very much replicates the social upheaval that happened when Gutenberg rediscovered movable type printing, and all of a sudden books became affordable to the middle class, literacy soared, and ordinary people were starting to find out things that the rulers did not want them finding out. And there was a backlash, an attempt to block printing or block books being owned by the middle class. Ultimately, it all failed. And those institutions that could evolve and adapt to the new reality of a better educated population survived, and those entities that couldn't adapt went extinct. And we're seeing exactly the same thing happening right now.
Yeah, to quote the good book, you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Thank you so much, Michael.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and let's see. Next call is Joe in Tennessee. Joe, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, I've listened to you for a long time. This is the first time I've ever called you. I was really upset about the whole Seth Rich thing yesterday. I mean, I called my senators, my congressmen. I even called Bernie Sanders' office. And then they have a press conference, and Sean Spicer is asked about it, and he says no comment. I mean, here's the whole narrative of the Russia hacking story blown out of the water, and the press secretary of the president says no comment. It amazed me. And sometimes I wonder which side these people really on. I mean, the whole Seth Rich thing is, if it's true, that tells, it can destroy the whole power structure that's against Trump. And if you ask me,
actually, let's back off there. I mean, if the Seth Rich thing was true and he was assassinated for leaking to WikiLeaks, and that all starts to unravel, remember my pet theory about that email server is that Hillary Clinton was repeating the 1994 Chinagate scandal, where Bill Clinton, using his authority as president, declassified and authorized the transfer of sensitive military technology to China, and in exchange, Chinese money was being funneled into his re-election campaign. Well, again, there's family history on your side, and if you look at it, Hillary's email server was a perfect espionage setup. She's got the weak email server where those who are given the appropriate passwords can log in and acquire secrets, and she's got that charitable foundation to collect and launder the money. It's a perfect system for that kind of behavior. But a scandal on that scale is not just a threat to the Democrats, it's a threat to the entire government as a whole. And you get into a situation like that, one of the great secrets. Everybody's going to be working to keep it under wraps. Even Hillary Clinton's worst enemies are going to be working to protect it, if I am in fact right as to what really lies at the heart of all of this. It's the same thing with the JFK assassination or 9/11 or all of that stuff. Everybody works to protect those secrets, even if they're enemies, because it's their job on the line.
Well, there's a financial guy that I listen to, and he says that he can't have us lose total regard for government, because he's going to need people to believe in the government to rebuild the government. But I think they're boxing him in to the point where his only option is to totally go for delegitimizing the people that are in power now. That's not necessarily delegitimizing the government. It's just delegitimizing the swamp creatures that inhabit our government. And I was just going to ask you one other thing about the Seth Rich thing. Do you think maybe this FBI investigation into Bernie Sanders' wife is a way to keep him on the reservation with all this?
It could very well be.
It's interesting it's interesting the timing of that. And when it first happened, I thought, what's behind this? Maybe, Hillary's, people are trying to punish him about, losing her the election. And then this Seth thing starts bubbling up again, and I'm thinking, well, that could be a way to keep him, quiet about it.
Well,
anyway,
I don't know that Bernie Sanders has anything, any information regarding Seth Rich, but certainly as we continue to find out just how crooked the Democratic primaries were last year, Hillary, who still apparently has ambitions for political office, certainly does not want Bernie Sanders coming on out and reiterating that he feels he was cheated, and so this investigation into his wife might be the hammer held over him to keep him quiet.
But I mean, if Seth Rich was murdered because his motive for releasing the emails was his, being upset about how they treated Bernie, maybe there is a little bit of loyalty in Bernie too, and it would upset him that his somebody that supported him like that was murdered. I mean, that's what I mean.
We
he
don't know.
Can't be all that bad.
We don't know that Seth Rich leaked that information to WikiLeaks specifically related to the treatment of Bernie Sanders. He may just have realized he was looking at evidence of massive election fraud and criminality and just decided that as a U.S. citizen, he could not sit still for that. I mean, I went through that experience all these years ago when I spotted that obviously bogus photo of Vince Foster and the gun he was alleged to have used on himself. And, like a good citizen, I am looking at evidence of a murder made to look like a suicide. See something, say something. We've all heard that. And so I tried to do something about it, and, of course, that was basically the end of my career in Hollywood. And
I was upset about that one, too.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, one other quick thing. This thing with Comey's notes, they have the Senate put out a letter to him, and they want all his notes, not just about the meeting about Flynn. They want the notes with Obama, the notes with Hillary and Lynch. So this could really backfire on the Democrats. I mean, if they want all his notes, my dad was a doctor, and he said never take notes, because then if you get what they call malpractice, they'll come back to haunt you. So when I heard that, I was like, wow, that was Grassley, and even Feinstein signed the letter. And it wasn't just particular to that meeting about Flynn. It was all the notes. So this guy, really, I think this could be Trump pulling another one of his traps and jiu-jitsu moves that he's so famous for.
Well, I'd like to see it happen. I have been waiting for 2 decades now for all of the corrupt, crooked people in Washington, D.C. to get their comeuppance. And unfortunately, at this point, the entire system is pretty much corrupt. There are some exceptions. Donald Trump certainly came into the White House as a neophyte, but the system may be corrupting him. Certainly Trey Gowdy is a straight shooter. So is Jason Chaffetz. But there are too few of these kind of people in that system. The vast majority of people who are in those positions are there to enrich themselves, aggrandize themselves, and they're there to basically just sell out to whoever shoves the most money at them.
Well, I think this is our last chance. If Trump isn't given the opportunity to save this country, I think the financial markets are going to I think we're going to probably a war overseas and maybe a civil war here. So I just got to root for him because there's no other option. I mean, I hate to say it like that.
There isn't.
But anyway, thanks for listening to me, Michael. I'll call again when I get a chance.
All right, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to switch over to Steve in California. Steve, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to share my TSA story with you. It happened about maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I asked a question, and I didn't get an answer. And they said, well, you probably want to contact TSA itself on the Internet. So I went on the email and emailed them. But my question was, when I was traveling back to Indiana, I had my computer with me, and, of course, they did the tape thing to see if there was any residue, bomb residue or powder residue or anything, bomb explosive material that was used in the computer. Of course, it was not, and I got to go on my way, but the question I asked was, if we understand correctly that in Iraq, the IEDs are the size of a portable CD player or smaller than that, then why aren't you scanning the other stuff that people have? Like I had an iPod and a portable CD player, and none of these things are being scanned. They just go after the computer, and the guy looked at me like, just deer in the headlights. Like a good question, but I don't have an answer, so he told me to contact the TSA. I did so, and I received an email back. Actually, I received a letter, I believe it was, and an email. And the only thing they came back with the answer was, thank you for your concern. That was it.
Well, like I said earlier in the program, you have much more room for nefarious purposes with a modern single-lens reflex camera. They're all digital now, but film one's the same way. Once you take that lens off, there's a little concise little space back there that you could do something nefarious with, like maybe smuggle drugs. I remember when I traveled with a single-lens reflex camera, they'd make you take the lens cap off, and they would look through it to make sure there wasn't something in between the lens and the camera itself. But again, this focus on the laptops, I have no idea what that is about, and maybe they just want all the laptops down in an area in the cargo bay where they can be copied off over the Wi-Fi, because I don't know if you've noticed this or not, gone are the days when laptops had a physical switch to turn off the Wi-Fi. Now it's under software control, which means it probably can be turned on remotely. And they could just sort of help themselves to whatever's on that laptop during the flight. I mean, they would have hours and hours to basically copy off what's on those laptops down in the cargo bay.
Yeah. Hey, last question for you. You talked about this WannaCry ransomware that was going around, 99 countries, 75,000 already victimized by it. And you mentioned the backup using a portable hard drive, which I agree with 100%. But my question is, if you leave the portable hard drive still connected to your PC when you do your backup and forget to disconnect it through the USB, can they go through your computer to your portable hard drive and erase that and steal the information that way?
Well, there wouldn't really be much purpose because it's just a copy of what's on the system drive. But at this point, the NSA and CIA have bored so many holes through our systems. At this point, you have to assume that anything is going to be possible. And if you have a reason to have private information that you don't want anybody to see, you're going to have to get yourself an air-gapped computer. And again, the concern now is finding one where you know for a fact that the Wi-Fi is turned off. We have to take a break for commercials. Thank you for the call, Steve, and we'll be back with another phone call after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to take another phone call and then get back to the news here. Captain Jack in Florida. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hello there, Mike. Well, I tell you what, you're in a lucky spot over there. I really loved it. I was over there during the Apollo 11 mission up in Kaonohi. Is that still in operation up there?
Yeah, the tracking station is still there, and it's obviously servicing a lot of satellites. Claire and I hiked out past there a while back, and you could just see the dish tracking across the sky.
Oh, man, that was a beautiful place. Went inside a big tunnel up there. Well, anyway, what I called about, Mike, is I read a few things about this laptop stuff and everything on the airplanes, and I don't think it's because of the explosions. I think it's because they could take over the control of the aircraft through the entertainment system of the aircraft, especially with the 300 series aircraft from Europe, and fly that airplane and crash it. I think that may be the reason.
Well, the simple solution, and I think this is already the case, is the in-cabin entertainment internet is not connected to the flight control systems. They're completely isolated from each other. I mean, that's an obvious safety precaution.
Well, I hope so, but I just hope that's that it is, because I just don't think they can put like you say, a big enough explosive in the laptops to do that.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on here, but the story just feels bogus to me.
That sure is. All right, Mike. Well, good talking to you. I'm broadcasting your program on 87.7 here in North Florida with 25 watts. I get out about 10 miles, so you're around up here.
Well, greetings to all of our listeners in Florida. And one of the hard things about doing independent media is we never really know what our reach is. We know what the streams are going out, but we don't know all the people who are recopying the show and putting it on YouTube, and certainly all the micro-broadcasters. We know we have a lot of micro-broadcasters out there who are carrying the RBN programming, and we're very, very grateful for those people helping us to reach a larger audience.
Yeah, roger that. We're trying to put the word out. Okay, buddy. Well, good listening to you and good talking to you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch to Tom in Indiana. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi. I'd like to say that maybe Kumi ought to be looked at for obstruction of justice with the Seth Rich computer. It seems that either the FBI has it or the New York Police Department has it. And it seems like he was in the proper place to squelch any information about it.
Well,
I think that would be obstruction.
Again, we had that story that said the FBI had the information from the laptop showing the communications with WikiLeaks 96 hours after his assassination. And so, yes, that would be obstruction of justice to bury that. But we don't even need to go there. James Comey, when he gave his press conference about Hillary's email server and the handling of classified information, he went down the list of felony violations of Title 18 committed by Hillary Clinton and then said, we're not going to charge. And that, to me, was obstruction. Anyway, listen, got to let you go. Got to take a break for station identification. Bye. We'll be right back.